everybody. This is episode 2 of the Bolt Report. I'm your hostess, Rose Goddess 3 from the PlayStation 3 Soul Drinkers, and I have Chrome also from the PS3 Soul Drinkers, Adeptus from the PS3 Raven Guard, Godsmoker from the PS3 Ultramarines, and coming up in the middle of the show, we're going to have an interview with renowned Devastator Soul Drinker JBird1222. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for all of the positive feedback that we got for episode 1. It kind of exceeded at least my expectations. I was very pleased, and thank you so much for watching and for your kind comments, and hopefully we can recapture the magic here. So we're going to go into some news. There's been a lot that has happened in the Games Workshop THQ world over the last month or so, so we're going to discuss that a little bit. Then we have a lot of announcements also. Some of the tournaments have gotten underway. We'll have just a moment after our announcements, we'll have our Inquisition. Then we will read the winner of our contest of what happened to Captain Titus, and then we'll have our tactical readout session. And for this episode, we're going to focus a lot on more of the casual gamer. There's going to be some things in there for everybody, but one of the comments that we received, one of the most recurring comments, was that the last episode wasn't much for the casual gamer who had bought the Space Marine game, who had played through the single-player campaign, and we just want to let them know what's available in the various communities on the PlayStation, the Xbox, and Steam. There's a lot of training available if you're interested in getting into the competitive multiplayer aspect. There's a ton of tournaments, especially right now, and we would love to get more people involved in those. So I am going to hand it over briefly to Chrome to discuss what happened in the THQ bankruptcy.
Oh, the THQ bankruptcy. So one of the most important things to keep in mind is that THQ did not go bankrupt because of Space Marine. Space Marine made money. Space Marine was one of the top 10 selling games when it came out. It sold 1.2 million copies in the first couple months, exceeding expectations, and that was at a time when you had Skyrim, Uncharted 3, Arkham City, big games coming out, and still it sold 1.2 million copies in the first couple of months. So, if someone says, oh, Space Marine, didn't THQ, you're into Warhammer? I thought the company that made those video games went bankrupt. They did not go bankrupt because of the Warhammer 40k video games. THQ had money problems going back for years, when a lot of their market for games that they did for children, licensed products for SpongeBob SquarePants, games for young kids. A lot of that market was drying up with all the free online games that were becoming available. And so you had, years ago, THQ saying, well, we're redesigning our company, we're retooling, we're going to start focusing on fewer titles, which put more pressure on them to have each title be a success. And what you saw at the end of 2010, was the THQ had designed this tablet, a game tablet called the U-Draw. The U-Draw was one of the main reasons why THQ went bankrupt. But at the in Christmas 2010, they had designed it. It was a periphery device. You plug it into the Wii. You could draw. Kids could draw on it while they played games. It was a stylus type thing, and they had Disney games, several successful games for it. And that was one of their big money makers. It was a hit. So they decided to invest big in the U-Draw for Christmas 2011 for the PS3 and Xbox. Now 2011, aside from Space Marine being a hit, wasn't... they didn't have nothing but hits that year. Red Faction came out in 2011, the fourth installment in that series, which had been a good series, but that within a month of Red Faction coming out in summer of 2011, they announced that there was not going to be a fifth game in the series. So Homefront was their sort of Call of Duty entry. That did, depending on the reports, that did okay. It did enough to justify Homefront 2, but it didn't. They didn't quite have a home run grand slam with it. So really, it was Christmas 2011 when the U-Draw tablet. They put a lot into it, and it did not sell very big. It probably seemed like a good idea at the time. Xmas 2010, we make a lot of money selling U-Draw tablets for Wii. Let's try the same thing for PS3 and Xbox. I think to some extent in 2011, the periphery market was kind of drying up. The game makers have been telling us, you want guitars for Rock Band and all these things like that. And I think a lot of gamers just said, I'm tired of these peripheries. Economy was down. But anyway, the U-Draw tablet left a $100 million shortfall. So by January of 2012, which is when we saw a lot of support, the last support that we saw for Space Marine was January 2012, and it was at that point in time that they realized that they had a $100 million shortfall from the U-Draw tablets, and that was pretty bad for them. So they eventually, in the summer, that was also when in 2012, they were announcing that Dark Millennium Online was no longer going to be going forward as an MMO. There were reports in the summer of 2012 that they were letting go of people who had worked on the Space Marine game as well. They were firing hundreds of employees at Relic and some of their other studios. They really needed something to come along to help them. The South Park game got delayed. The Darksiders 2 didn't sell as well as they would have liked. They had brought a president in, Jason Rubin, to sort of try to help save the company. Some people I've seen have said, this president, Jason Rubin, he doesn't know what he was doing. Well, he didn't. He came in after the problems with the U-Draw and everything, trying to save the company. But anyway, the then result was when they filed for bankruptcy in November, and in December of 2012, they had proposed that there would be a buyout in the bankruptcy court from a group called Clear Lake for $60 million, which would keep THQ together. The creditors objected, and there was an auction in January. Actually, since the last episode, there was an auction in the bankruptcy court, and THQ was broken up into its different constituent parts. Now, the Relic Studios, which makes the Warhammer 40k games, which made Space Marine, was their biggest selling component. That was $26 million is what it sold for to Sega. Now, what does that mean? Well, in December of 2012, Sega, who owns the studio Creative Assembly, did a license with Games Workshop to make Warhammer Fantasy games. The Creative Assembly is the studio that makes the Total War games for PC, which are very well regarded. So now what you have with Sega having bought up Relic is you have they now under one roof have the license to do Warhammer 40k games and the license to do Warhammer Fantasy games. They have the team that did Total War, and they have the team that did Dawn of War. So I think one of the good results, my prediction is 2014 is going to be a great year for Warhammer fans who are PC gamers. I would foresee that you're going to see Dawn of Total War combination teams. Hopefully, things could go bad, but there's all the elements are there for a dream team collaboration. They probably start with a Warhammer Fantasy game first, then follow it up with a 40k game. But there's every reason to look with confidence to the future in 2014. Perhaps those two teams working together might even make the best PC game of the year, being a Warhammer themed game. I think a downside, though, is that is probably the main reason why Sega purchased Relic. Sega isn't necessarily known for doing, high Metacritic rated adaptation games at this point. The Thor game, the Iron Man game, a lot of those were not very well rated. So their focus, oddly enough, doesn't seem to be on big console adaptations, which, from the standpoint of Warhammer console gaming, might mean, well, if they're just going to focus on the PC games, that could be no bueno for us. At the same time, I mean, does Sega have the capacity? Well, they've got the Platinum Games, the team that did Bayonetta. They've got, I mean, it's Sega. They could do it if they want. And I think the main focus is, again, there's a market for it. Console games based on Warhammer have made money. And so hopefully they would either put the investment, put the time into it, or one idea could be that they could sell the license for console-only games if they're going to just focus on PC games. But
what do you think the fact that Vigil was not one of the... what do you think that means? That wasn't one of the assets.
Right, that's
purchased from THQ.
That's going to be probably another bad sign. Vigil was one of the companies that was working on Dark Millennium Online. They were also the makers of Darksiders, and they didn't get sold at the auction. So there's probably what could happen is someone might come along and bid specifically on the Darksiders brand names, some of the intellectual property there, but it didn't look like there was any interest in buying the studio as a whole. So it's quite possible then that whatever work has been put into Dark Millennium Online might just wind up sitting on a shelf, which apparently there had been substantial work done on Dark Millennium Online, on some Warhammer game, but you might say, oh, that couldn't happen. They couldn't put in all that time. Well, and just have it sit on a shelf. I mean, there are rumors of something like Battlefront 3, which was supposed to be 90-some% done and just sitting on a shelf somewhere. And Dark Millennium Online wasn't, no report was that it was 90% done that I saw. So, again, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily horrible news, but there'd probably be more reason to look with confidence to the future if, say, Ubisoft or Electronic Arts or someone might have purchased Relic and Vigil together. So again, I think for PC gamers, 2014 Warhammer is going to be a great year. As far as console-based games, we'll have to wait and see. But the lack of purchase of Vigil, the fact that there seems to be a real clear PC-based motivation for Sega to be buying Relic, and I don't think anything's coming in 2013. We talked about the possibility of a White Knight coming in, and that'd be great. I would love to be wrong on this. I'd love to see Sega do an announcement. Hey, we're Space Marine 2, expect it coming soon. But one thing to look at is that at this point in the life cycle of games, everyone's looking towards the next-gen consoles. So the cost of development, the turnaround time is going to be a bigger investment. So we'll wait and see. But again, I think there's every reason to think that in 2014 we're gonna see some super PC games based on Warhammer.
Well, hopefully they will come out with a wonderful PC game, but I guess us console gamers, let's pray to the God Emperor of Mankind and hope something fantastic will come out of it. So there's been some other news as well. Can you tell us a little bit about Games Workshop CEO stepping down?
Well, that's another big shakeup. Something that happened since episode 1 is that the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Games Workshop, Mark Wells, stepped down after 5 years. I believe he's still involved in the company, and in and of itself, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a huge huge shakeup, but as there's an opening in CEO right now, Games Workshop will probably appoint someone who kind of falls in line with their current values, their sort of model and paint approach first and foremost. But we'll see. CEOs are big deals. They're very important to the company, and if they bring in someone with a new vision, a different vision, I personally would like to see Games Workshop view itself as an intellectual property company. Marvel used to look at itself as a comic book company, and eventually they expanded their horizons. So we're not just a comic book company. Characters like Spider-Man and whatnot, movies, books, T-shirts, video games, all kinds of things like that. So maybe Games Workshop with the new CEO, maybe not, but maybe they will expand their horizons, and we'll see. I don't know, T-shirts for sale in a wider line or something like that.
Love to have a Soul Drinkers T-shirt.
Just a Horus Heresy shirt would be great.
So Adeptus or Godsmoker, do either of you have any comments about the future of the Space Marine video game franchise, or the Games Workshop CEO stepping down? Or
I like PC now.
Okay.
I'm not a big PC gamer, but give me more. That's all I gotta say.
All right. So, and then I'm sorry. Did you say something?
Oh, I said give me more.
Okay. And then just one final bit of news, real quick. Also interesting has happened as far as the trademark of the term Space Marine. In mid-December 2012. Amazon.com was approached by Games Workshop, and they were asked to remove a book called Spots the Space Marine, Defense of the Fiddler by MCA Hogarth. So the book was taken down, and because Games Workshop said, hey, we own the trademark on Space Marine, but Hogarth came back with the aid of the Electronic Frontier Foundation and said that term had been around in science fiction for a really long time, since the 1930s. Authors like Robert Heinlein, who wrote the Starship Troopers series, had used the term before, not particularly in Starship Troopers, but in some of his other works. So I believe it was yesterday Amazon reinstated the book on its shelves, but it's kind of an interesting question as to whether Space Marine as a term has acquired secondary meaning with the Warhammer 40K series. So with that, I think
it's something that just because it's not decisive that just because Space Marine as a term was used in the 1930s that means that the Games Workshop couldn't acquire a trademark in the term. In fact, they do have a trademark in the term when it comes to you can't come out with models, Space Marine models. Or they have Space Marine as a trademark in other areas. So it's not so. I've seen on the internet people say, "Oh, how can they go after a trademark in the term Space Marine?" It's like, well, they actually have the trademark in the term Space Marine in a lot of other media, plus there's also a kind of odd thing in the trademark systems that people need to sort of sue to maintain their trademarks, right? There's an incentive to pursue lawsuits. Even if they thought Spots the Space Marine Defense of the Fiddler wasn't crossing the line, something that they thought maybe if someone came out Space Marine 50K, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna sue a trademark infringement over that," and then that Space Marine 50K is as their defense saying, "Well, you didn't sue Spots the Space Marine." So you do have an odd bit of incentive in the intellectual property system for trademark holders or would-be trademark holders to file lawsuits.
So I'm curious if any viewers have thoughts on that matter, whether you think that is Games Workshop being a trademark bully here, or should they have gone after that? I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So I think Now we're going to move on to some announcements. Maybe we can let Adeptus go first, and then we can, we have some announcements from Gothic Wars and from the Xbox community, but we'll go ahead and discuss those after Adeptus talks about some of the really exciting things that are going on right now in the PlayStation 3 community.
All right, thanks. So, I've got a couple of things here for this issue of the report. Right now, we're in the middle of Gregus's tournament. He and Palmer put together the Survivor tournament, which was a follow-on to the Black Crusade we did back in the fall. And the sort of the background story is, as all the chapters got back in their battle barges and were trying to get away from Mordian, they were attacked by a massive Tau navy and pretty much all destroyed except for one drop pod from each chapter. Made it down to the planet of Bray, and when they got down there, they were all overcome by this black rage sort of thing, and now it was survival of the fittest. So all alliances were out. They weren't turning on their own chapter members, but anyone that was Imperium was turned against whether they were Imperium or whether they were Chaos. So that's been going on. It's a double elimination brackets tournament going right now, and we're hoping to finish it this weekend. The Raven Guard, just made it into the final round today. And looks like the last I looked at the brackets page on the SMCA site, the Mortifactors beat the Praetors of Orpheus. So they're going to wait for the victor between the Soul Drinkers and the World Eaters, which goes on, as I look at about an hour and 15 minutes, or maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. From now, I think it's Central Time at 8. And then that winner gets to go to the Space Wolves, and then that winner comes to see the Raven Guard. So we'll be waiting for him, whoever that's going to be. Next up is a one-day event. It's hosted by Amanda the Freak. It's Battle of the Sexes. Rose, I think you're in it.
Yes, I am.
So she's the chapter master of the Praetors of Orpheus, and she's putting together a Sisters of Battle versus the Space Marine event. I think it's next Sunday, I believe. So that's a best 3 out of 5 games between it, just for fun. It's just a fun get-together. No holds barred, and we'll see if the chicks beat the dudes on that one there.
Oh, bring it, dude. Bring it.
Yeah. I won't be in it, unfortunately. So back to the Survivor Tournament. The winner of the Survivor Tournament, they get a bonus, which is going to be announced, which I'm not going to let anyone know what it is yet. But for the Black Crusade 2 tournament, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. And so the Black Crusade is, I guess if you want to put it this way, it's kind of like the premier event of the SMCA. So Black Crusade 2 Purgatory Rising starts a week from Monday on the 18th. And this is a follow-on not only from the Black Crusade that we held back in the fall, but also we're tying the Survivor Tournament into it. So the winning chapter, the surviving chapter out of Bray comes up, and they're going to end up being diverted over to another planet, mining world called Purgatory, and they'll go there, and that's when the next battles will happen. And the story around that, which is all up on the SMCA page right now, is that some miners discovered a warp stone, a shard of one, way down deep. And of course, everyone wants that. The Chaos guys want it for their reasons. Imperium wants it for their reasons. And the surprise coming into it this time, the Orcs want it too. So we have found a way this time to bring Exterminatus into the Black Crusade. So it'll be kind of fun. Godsmoker came up with a real good plan for that one there. So not that I'm not giving Spit Gun credit, but Godsmoker sort of came up with the core of that idea right there. So there are all 11 multiplayer maps. Basically, this will go like the last one. There are 11 maps that will be critical areas of this planet of Purgatory, and it's all about controlling of the maps. And each map has a perk available to it. We've changed it around a little bit from the last time, so now instead of having, only the classic maps have perks and the rest have lots of points, every map has a perk to it, and the points are sort of spread out a little bit on it there. So the idea is to control the most for each faction, meaning the Chaos faction, which will be made up of some number of Chaos dedicated chapters that are playing, and the Imperium will be made up of some obviously Loyalist chapters that are in the game. It'll be up to those factions to try to control the maps, get the most points, and at the end win. There are 5 phases in it: seize ground, capture and control, capture the flag, annihilation, and it wraps up with a dreadnought assault. So you can see everything in the game is brought into this tournament. Each phase now, instead of last time, it was pretty intense last time, especially for the Soul Drinkers, when they ended up being the only Chaos chapter over there.
So I will take a moment. I apologize for interrupting. I will take a moment to implore the other chapters to take part in the Chaos side. So I'll leave it at that, but please don't leave us alone.
You might see Loyalist chapters from the last time switch just to balance things out.
Good.
You never know. But so each chapter, each phase now, instead of being a 1 week, will be a 2 week. So the idea is Monday starts a new phase. So Monday the 18th. By Thursday, you have to have announced your attacks, but you have the next day, Friday, all the way through the following Sunday to get them done. So it's not like you got to cram everything into one weekend and, ruin your family lives and all that if you don't want to. But we're trying not to let you anyway. Again, like I said, the big thing here is that Exterminatus is going to be brought into it. So each chapter in the first week of each phase gets one shot to go play Exterminatus, and we've got the maps set up for each phase. You get 3 Marines, there'll be an observer in there, and you have to play with the limited loadouts that are available to you based on whatever map you own and the phase that we're in. So 3 guys to try to make it through Arena 4, Wave 20. If you successfully do it, you get what we're calling now requisition perks, which are RPs, which I'll shorten it to. And basically those are kind of like trump cards. So that whenever you get to use one, you can earn one. Well, there's a way to earn 2, but I'll come to that in a minute. You can earn one, and you can lay one down on one of the battles that you have during the tournament during that phase. So, in the first phase coming up, seize ground. If you're a chapter that goes out and gets it, you can go, oh hey, I got my 1 RP. You get to use it in 1 match. So if you have 6 matches, you only get to use it on 1 of them. So it'll be kind of cool, and it sort of allows you to do things like, oh, you get to use Iron Halo on your guy. Well, guess what? I'm trumping you and you can't use Iron Halo. I mean, that's just one of the scenarios you could use. So, I mean, it's going to be kind of fun to be able to go, you think you've got what you need, and then all of a sudden a trump card comes out. And, you get taken off.
What's that? Things up a bit. Sorry.
We put some dirty tricks in it.
We did.
Strategic opportunities.
What's that, John?
Strategic opportunities.
You got it.
Or
it'll be
tricks,
good.
Whatever you want to call it.
But you get one shot at it, and that's going to be the thing. And so I'm sort of going a little bit more on that right here, because for anyone who's in it that listens to it, it might make more sense than reading it. Although I think we did a good job of articulating the rules for both of the scenarios. So if you take 3 Marines and you go and whenever you hit the defeat screen, if you don't make it through Wave 20, that's it for that phase. You don't get any other shot at it. You get one time and it's over with. If you make it through Wave 20, the end of the 4th arena, then you get an RP. If you successfully complete the bonus wave, good luck with 3 Marines. Then, well, I don't know, the Ultramarines might be able to do that. They're the Exterminatus champs there. But then you get a second RP. So there is a way to win 2 RPs in each phase, but you got to get all the way through the bonus round. So that'll be good.
And Adeptus is something like
Exterminatus, Godsmoker, Spitgun, and I spent a lot of time on Skype conference calls going over these rules. And we've got a couple of surprises that'll be sprung during certain phases that'll even be more twisting and turning of the stuff out there. So make it more interesting. So stay tuned for those 2. I'd like to tell you, but I can't even tell my own chapter.
So we'll have to all stay on our toes then. Won't know what to expect.
Just watch, because they'll be sprung at the last minute, and then it'll throw everyone into... I won't throw you into too much turmoil. And on a final note from me on the news side, this comes for the SMCA, Space Marine Competition Association. We now have over 200 registered members on the webpage, so that's good. So I thank all of the folks out there who are trying to do what they can to help keep this community going, especially the competitive side of it.
And even then, I mean, there's chapters that maybe have two members on the site as their liaisons, but they've got a dozen or more members that are active, right? So I mean, it's not like that's even the whole competitive community, but that's good.
Yeah, it's great that there's a lot of people that are so actively involved in the community, but there are others out there. So.
Well, it is, and I think the word's spreading about the chapter. I'm hoping that the first Volta report got some word out about the SMCA, and that this one will get even further. But by my count, and I could be wrong, I think there are 9 to 11 what I call battle-ready chapters out there. Folks that have at least 8 to 10 guys that they could conceivably pull together for a battle. And most of our battles are, I think, if I'm right, we're fighting with 7 versus 7 on most of them. So it gives a little leeway in there. And again, in the Black Crusade, it's the same as last time. You can bring in, of the 7 guys, so if it's Raven Guard against Soul Drinkers, Raven Guard have to field at least 4 of the players are Raven Guard. You can bring allies from any of the other chapters, but over half of them, so 4 of 7 in this case, have to be Raven Guard for it to be an official thing, or you have to forfeit if you can't come up with that. So anyway, we're doing our best to come up with ways to keep interest in the community out there. And I do want to thank everyone who's joined the website, who's shown an interest, and all those guys out there that are trying to start up new chapters. I wish you luck. It's not going to be easy, but I hope that you stick with it, because when you get up into the competitive side, it makes the game a whole lot more interesting. Anyway, that's what I have for this time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for letting us know.
And a shout out to Blue Nose Boy, who threw the Fallen Angels event since the episode 1. Right,
that's right. And I think Ray's won that one, didn't he? Raziel?
Yes, Soul Drinker Raziel Ray's was the victor for that.
That was
even competition.
That was a very role-playing game heavy one as well, for people interested in that side of the game as well.
Be creative, everyone out there that has an idea brewing inside of them for a tournament, for more of a sort of role-playing-esque aspect of it. Feel free to post it, bounce ideas off of any of us.
You'll get players.
Yeah, you'll get players, and please contact us if you have any questions, or if you'd like help on getting it started. And so hopefully we'll see some others in the future like that.
From the SMCA, I mean, that's kind of what there are a lot of people. Blue Nose is a rep on there. I mean, each chapter has a primary and an alternate rep, basically. But Blue Nose, Godsmoker, you guys, Spit Gun from Soul Drinkers. There are a lot of guys out there who have experience putting together tournaments before all this came together. So, like with Gregis and Palmer's Survivor Tournament, we helped them with a few of the tweaking of what they did to put that one together. So we'll be glad to help you with one. It's not like, and the SMCA does not own a tournament. We're just sort of a host. We don't. The tournament comes from the people out there that want to put one on. We just sort of help them with a website to announce it, to monitor it, and do things like that. And also, I'm going to throw a shout out. The scenario for Black Crusade 2. Black Crusade was originally created by Brother Gore and Doomshroom, formerly of the Blood Hunters each, although Doomshroom has seen the light, come back to the light, and is now a Raven Guard, so go Raven Guard again. And Brother Gore and Doomshroom came up with the follow-on story, so now they've tied the Survivor Tournament in that scenario into what the scenario for Black Crusade 2 is. And Brother Gore, who's now known just as Gore, is now Inquisitor Gore, and so any disputes that come up during the matches will be handled by one man who is not playing, who's impartial, but who, because he helped create the whole tournament the first go-round, he has a good understanding of what this is about. So that's it.
All right.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Lots of things going on in the PlayStation 3 world. And we've also been in touch with some of the Xbox players and also another community out there known as Gothic Wars. Did you want to talk a little bit about Gothic Wars? And they were kind enough to share some announcements they would like shared as well.
Yeah, for sure. If PS3 SMCA.engine.com is the site for PS3 competitive play, then without a doubt, GothicWars.org is the site for Xbox players. It has been for, I think, at least a year now. And so, as SpaceMarine.com has continued to die a slow, painful death. Again, if you're an Xbox player, I would, we at Bolter Report encourage you, check out GothicWars.org. There you have all the same kinds of things that we have on the PS3 SMCA site as far as chapter recruiting and things like that. We hope to continue expanding our Xbox coverage. We do have some news events, which is an expansion over what we had before, which is nothing. Xbox had a Champions Tournament recently, which wrapped up, and Twiggy of the Dark Angels was the winner of that. So congratulations to Twiggy for being the head honcho, big stud on the Xbox side, winning the Champions Tournament. There was also a large chapter tournament which went on, and recently it was Jericho's Reach Deathwatch triumphed over the Dark Angels to win the chapter tournament over on the Xbox side. So congratulations to the Deathwatch on the Xbox side. And it looks like for a future event, they're now going to have a 2-on-2 Annihilation tournament where the members of each team have to be from different chapters. So that's an interesting twist. And I believe registration is happening this weekend. I've been told by the good people at the Gothic Wars site that they're open to having new players. You don't need to be established in anything right now. Get on over there, enter in the 2v2, and hopefully we'll have more information on what's happening with the Xbox side and Gothic Wars.
All right, so congratulations to those players and those teams, and yeah, a lot of stuff still going on in this game on the PlayStation side and the Xbox side. So I guess we're going to move on to a segment which received a lot of positive feedback on the last episode.
Inquisition, wanna show the Inquisition. Here we go, we know you're wishing that we'd go away, but the Inquisition's here and it's here to stay. Oh boy, the Inquisition, what joy, the Inquisition, oi, oi.
And the Inquisition, and we're going to be interrogating Mr. JBird1222 of the PlayStation 3 Soul Drinkers. So, do you want to give a little background about Jaybird and his impact on the community?
Sure. Well, it's hard to be unbiased with someone who's been my friend and battle brother for over a year now. But I mean, aside from the loss in Alpha Heresy 2012 on the competitive side, was certainly a sort of a year of the Soul Drinkers with Cadia Prime, Blood Feud, Black Crusade, being all won by the Soul Drinkers. And Jaybird, the heavy bolter player, was a key figure in that, captain in the Soul Drinkers. And he's had 5,000 point scores in and on PS3 and on the Xbox side of the game as well. I personally would say he's the best heavy bolter in the game, but I think he's indisputably one of. He's certainly a mega master of the heavy bolter, and here on the Inquisition to share some tips, give us some reveals, and let us know what he thinks of the current state of things. Jaybird.
Also, Jaybird. Hey.
Oh,
Good. How are you doing?
oh, Jeez, a lot to live up to after that.
So, I guess just starting off, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, anything that you're comfortable sharing before we move into some of the game-specific questions?
Sure. What the heck? Let's see. Married, kids, dog, no picket fence. Standard stuff. I'm going to school right now, and pretty much in my free time, I'm doing anything under the sun.
Awesome. Before you started playing Space Marine, did you have a gaming background? Did you do any competitive gaming, or what was your previous Warhammer gaming experience? Did you do the tabletop, or did you just kind of delve right into the Space Marine game itself?
I had zero experience competitive gaming. The most competition I got into was playing Madden with my son. As far as Warhammer itself goes, back in high school, we played it lunch or whatever. We'd go over to a friend's house on the weekends and just play like an RPG. Really, other than that, my only experience with Warhammer was playing Dawn of War. And that's obviously a lot more recent than high school. But I think just the idea of being some kind of superhuman freak with, the ability to shrug off bullets and, dish out some paint on other people always kind of stuck with me. So, when I saw Space Marine come out, obviously I was interested. And Christmas 2011, I guess, I got a PlayStation and decided, you know what, Space Marine is going to be the game that I started out with. So, other than that, that's pretty much my background with any type of competitive gaming and Warhammer.
Thank you. So could you give us a little bit of your some highlights from your Space Marine gaming experience from the beginning until now? How did it start? How did you get involved in the competitive aspect of it? And what are some of the craziest things that you've seen since, and anything that you would like to share?
When I started, my experience consisted of getting melted in the face and jumping in front of people because I started out running around with the Melta. And I can remember way back at the beginning of last year, I didn't know what the crap I was doing. I got in with Greg when he was a part of the Soul Drinkers. And what actually got me into the Soul Drinkers was saving his butt one game 6, 7 times. I took a couple of shots for him, and I remember after the game he was laughing his butt off because I must have had 15 deaths, and I might have had 3 kills. But because I couldn't do anything with this game. I was so new to it. I didn't know any special way to do things. And I just, figured if I can take a death over somebody that knows what they're doing, then they'll be able to get the guy that killed me and somebody else. So that's just kind of the mentality that I've always had with the game. And so that's kind of what got me into the Soul Drinkers. And Raz and Mel kind of got tired of me being in a game with them, and I'd be racking up deaths like nobody's business. My deaths would rival their kills. They pulled me aside one day and says, "Here's a heavy bolter, use this." Okay? And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I can't move anywhere. Everybody's at the other point and I can't do anything. And so it forced me to change my tactics a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's again, as you said, since our focus, we're going to be having a lot more later on in the episode for newer players, people that, if you're a fan of Warhammer 40K, you're a fan of Space Marines, you maybe bought the game for the single player campaign and don't have any experience in kind of transitioning into online play. Well, again, as with the guest on the first episode, as with JBird now, Well, as we see that, these are players that didn't have any competitive gaming experience online, who eventually, with some work and practice, finding their instrument of choice, eventually developed into strong players.
Yeah, there's certainly hope, and if one thing's not working, move on to another. So, at the time, the Melta wasn't working for JBird, but he moved on and became a kick-ass heavy bolter, and he can kill you, believe me. So
30 kills in one game.
Yeah, 30 kills in one game, right, JBird?
Yeah, I did that once.
Don't be modest.
I think that's the whole key to the game, though, is finding whether it's a specific weapon or a specific class that you're comfortable with, and just roll with it. Figure out what you can do, what you can't do, and how to exploit the perks that you have available to you. Really, that's the key to the game. Jumpers, they can jump in and out really quick. Attacks have such a diverse weapon selection, and Devastators pretty much can take a beating and keep going. It's just a matter of you finding out what your playstyle is and go for it. It probably took me a good 6 to 7 months to really figure out, okay, this is what I can do with Heavy Bolter, this is what I can't do. And so now I just pretty much do my thing, and I kind of keep the same mentality that I started the game with. I'm not going to cap more points than anybody else in the Seas game, usually. But I'll use suppressive fire and, keep people off of my chapter as much as I can. And that's just the way I play the game.
So, what are some of your favorite moments throughout the last almost year and a half that the game's been around?
Honestly, the first tournament was a real eye-opener. I mean, you get into games, when you're new, and you get into games and you're used to getting your butt kicked. Let's just face it. When you're new, you're probably going to get your butt kicked quite a bit. But you get better at the game, and you're in a pub game, and you get some intense games, and then it gets kind of boring, so to speak. Well, the next level is you jump into a tournament, and that was a big eye-opening experience. I mean, that is a rush because you don't want to let your chapter mates down. You want to make sure you're doing your job and you're doing as best as you can, and it gets pretty intense. And I think, the competition with the other chapters, SOV, Space Wolves, Ultramarines, Raven Guard, the list goes on and on. If you're not on the top of your game in one of those matches, you will lose. Because the competition is so intense, and the playing field is a lot more level than people think.
Yeah, that's what drives all of us. That intense competition, that adrenaline rush, the worry of whether you're going to let your team down, but just overcoming it and just kicking ass the best you can, and you've certainly kicked ass on a lot of occasions.
Yeah, any team that's in one of the tournaments, they're great players. They in a pub match overall, they're going to do great. I mean, it's everyone knows what they're doing in the competitive matches, and that is something.
Yeah, I think one of the most intense matches in the last tournament was actually against the Ultramarines. I don't know if Godsmoker was in that one or not, but it was on one of the expansion maps, and we had a lot of our people that we thought were going to be playing weren't there, and it was a pretty intense, hard-fought match. That's probably
was that the Dreadnought Assault one, Jay?
What's that?
Was that the Dreadnought Assault?
No, I think it was Annihilation on Station Tertius during the first Black Crusade. It was toward the end of the tournament, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty intense match. I know it seemed like I would post up somewhere and I'd have to move because there was people all over. I love that game. That's probably one of the funnest matches I've been in.
Yeah, we try to give you guys a run for your money, but we're still learning.
I'll tell you what, everybody on our side was sweating that match. I'm not even joking. We had a lot of veterans that have been in tournaments before, and we were sweating that match. Because I think we only won that one by one. It was close.
Well, since it is the Inquisition, I need to ask JBird, keeping up the tradition for Bolter Report, do you have some high-level reveals, tricks of the trade for the heavy bolter to tell the listeners?
I wish I had the insight that Rev did, because I'll tell you what, some of the things that he mentioned, I wish I knew about. Unfortunately, I don't have the technical background that he does, but I can give you a couple of things. If you're going after a heavy bolter, tip 1, don't go head on. Most of the time, you'll lose that match. There are very few people in this game that are going to beat a heavy bolter in a head-on match. Probably the biggest tip is if you can go to your right, which is their left. Heavy bolter turns a little bit slower. I don't know how many people know about that, but a heavy bolter turns a little bit slower going one way versus the other. So if you can get them going to their left, you're probably going to get the drop on because they can't move as quick if they're braced. That's probably the two biggest things that I can say is don't go head on and get them from the left side if possible.
Yeah, that is the heavy bolter when it's braced turns to the right faster than to the left, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. I think for people that want to use the heavy bolter, there's so many different ways you can utilize the perks that you get as a Devastator, as well as the expertise or the coolant. Find whatever works for you. That's probably the biggest thing about using a heavy bolter and being a Devastator in general, because you're not going to outrun anybody on the field. Let's face it, a jumper can fly backwards faster than you can run forwards. Find a couple of perks that you like, and get into matches with your chapter mates or friends or whatever, and just go to town. If you see somebody that's using a last cannon that's killing you repeatedly, find out what they're doing. Watch what they do. When I first started using a heavy bolter, Sicky Man would rip me a new one every time, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I started watching what he did. I got awesome training from Raz and from Mel, who are outstanding heavy bolters in their own right. And you just kind of take what you learn from people and you kind of put your own spin on it. A lot of people won't like it because you move a lot slower. If you go from being a jumper to being a Devastator, you're going to feel like somebody threw an anchor around your ankle. It's just, you move a lot slower. So, really, utilize the perks. Find out what the perks do and, maximize it. There's, not to be a homer or anything, but Mac, in our chapter, he plays with the plasma cannon. He has one of the best kill deaths consistently as a Devastator. He knows how to keep himself alive. Sicky Man, like I mentioned before. XZX, he always has a really good, kill death because he knows how to keep himself alive. That's the key to being a good Devastator, is keeping yourself alive.
You usually do. I usually can't kill you unless I have my hammer. That's pretty much the only time I can. So.
My name is being able to deal with jumpers, because in reality, attack no offense to the attacks that are out there, because there are some scary ones. Deuce being the most recent one that gave me a headache. But jumpers are your bane because they move so fast. And they can come in, hit you, and get away before you can lay the smackdown on them. And so when I started with a heavy bolter, I actually used the Halo and Furious Stomp. And what that did is that made me learn timing on, okay, that jumper's going to jump. He should hit in front of me about this time. That's when I need to be unbraced and using my stomp to stun him, and then I can hop away, put 2 shots in his head, and move on. That's the biggest thing with being a Devastator when you're dealing with jumpers is learn the timing. You know, a lot of times we go through a game, we don't pay attention to stuff like that, but it's the minute details that will keep you alive. And you got people like Godsmoker coming after you as a jumper, or you've got Brother Rob from SOV. You know, these guys don't mess around. They know how to get in and kill you. You need to know your timing and be able to, you know, if you're going to sit and fight, great. If you're going to get out of the way, great. But you need to make that decision and really perfect your technique.
Well,
I think I've lost that battle more than you've lost that battle, Jay.
What would your someone's playing a heavy bolter and their assault comes down, they don't want to just go, okay, I guess I'm dead now. What's your advice? What technique? Go walk through step by step. What's the technique for at least having a chance? Maybe it's not 100%, but dealing with an incoming assault.
It depends. If you see them coming after you, the biggest thing that I learned is you keep your sighting in, you keep your reticle small when you're shooting. But if you see a jumper go up in the air, let off of it so you're not as focused in, and you can move up with them and shoot them while they're in the air, so that if they do make it to you, a stomp or one shot will put them down. A lot of times you'll get them in the air. If they get in on you and you didn't see them, again, it really depends. Unbrace and go for the stun. If you can stun them, hop away and put 3 shots into them. That'll usually take care of a jumper. It really, it comes down to you really obviously want to be able to see them coming, because you don't want those guys anywhere near you. But if you don't, unbrace, because the nice thing is even if you happen to die, you wound them to the point where it's not going to take much for one of your teammates to deal with them. So, again, the biggest thing about being a Devastator is awareness. I mean, obviously that's true for any class, but a Devastator has to be aware of what's around him, because you don't move fast enough to get out of the way.
I commend you for playing a Devastator. When I've tried, I just have a really hard time. I can't run, I can't fly. Not being able to fly is the thing that just really bugs me the most. I love flying. I love getting away, and it's, to accomplish what you have with a class that is so slow moving is really remarkable. But what they trade off in power, what they do in speed, and they are certainly tough for me as an assault to come in and get you. There's sword users out there that have a lot better luck with Devastators than I do, but I am not very lucky with the sword against a heavy bolter.
I'll make you a deal, Rose. I've always been of the opinion that you don't really learn when somebody's kind of going easy on you. So in the girls versus guys tournament, I won't go easy on you. How about that?
Well, then I just won't go easy on you either.
Okay.
I think heavy bolter is actually it's something for, as we're talking about people starting lower in level. Compared to some of the early guns that you start with, an unperked bolter, an unperked stalker bolter, I think the heavy bolter, at least at a lower level, you can get some kills. An unperked heavy bolter will lay down some heat.
Well, that's the thing with you see the thing that popped up on the screen. None of the perks that you get as a Devastator At least, especially the heavy bolter. That perks really help do more damage. A heavy bolter out of the, from your lowest level of being able to use it can, like you said, it can lay down some fire like a smack on people. It's really just learning what you can do with it and what you can't do with it.
Uh-oh, we're getting a little bit of echo there.
Yeah, it's technical. Should we move into?
Yeah, I apologize for that.
Sorry, JBird. Looks like.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
But thanks for sitting in the Inquisition, I guess. And
So do you wanna stick around for the last bit, or do you have to head off?
Actually, I've got to head off. I've got somewhere I have to eat. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. There's a lot of great stuff there, and definitely appreciate it. Have a great night.
You guys too. Have a good one.
Take it easy, Jay.
Later.
Bye. So, we have. Uh-oh. Oh. Okay, is that better? All right. I don't hear echo anymore. Unfortunately, we are broadcasting from the equator. We live in Micronesia, so sometimes you're just going to have to bear with us a little bit because we're on the Coconut Express internet down here. So, I would, before we move on to Tactical Readout, I wanted to announce the winner of our contest about what happened to Captain Titus at the end. Maybe if you haven't played the single player, you want to skip this, but let me just pull this up.
Godsmoker, you should be proud.
Yeah.
One of your men.
Yes, one of your men, Corporal Hard Dog USMC, the Ultramarines' first captain, was the winner of our contest, and I have to say, he pretty much blew me away with his knowledge of the Warhammer 40k universe. He gave me quite a long... Yeah, it's really impressive. So I'm just going to go ahead and read what he thinks happens to Captain Titus. He goes a lot into the Ultramarines books that was set before year 745 of the 41st millennium. So, in 698 of the 41st millennium, forgive me if I butcher some of these names and words, but I guess none of us really know how they're pronounced now, do we? So, the Cherdon campaign, the Ultramarines and other chapters are fighting the Orcs, and I believe this is when the game is set. Somewhere in between this and 745 of the 41st millennium, Battle of Macrage. Am I completely ruining it? Okay, sorry. Captain Titus is killed. How, I do not know, because I haven't found any info on the second company before the Battle of Macrage. I'm sorry, I'm being hard on myself. So, in 745 of the 41st millennium, Captain Invictus is the first company captain, and Captain Severus Agamen is captain of the second company. So, Titus has been killed, or maybe sent on a death oath, by this point. If you listen in the game, Captain Titus talks to one of his squads that starts with an S. I can't remember the name and on duty, so he didn't have his PlayStation, so he couldn't find it. So this same squad is still with the second, so the game didn't happen too long before the Battle of Macrage. At the end of the Battle of Macrage, first Captain Invictus is killed by the Tyranids, and Captain Agaman is sent from second company to first company captain, and Cato Sicarius to the second company captain. I believe that Titus is either killed or sent a death oath during the Cherdon campaign, and this is where he is replaced by Captain Agamen. There is nowhere in this game where I can find a date, so by what little things I've seen in the game, I believe this is before the First Tyrannic War. If the game was at year 999 of the 41st millennium, where Games Workshop has the last date from the Codex, Ultramarines just got done facing the Iron Warriors and the Second Tyrannic War, and are about to face Chaos at the Gate, the one that starts with the C, or the 13th Black Crusade, and there's another Hive fleet coming into Ultramar space. So, that's a lot of historical info.
Yeah, we had said that, obviously since the game ended with Captain Titus being charged with heresy, Corporal Hardog suggested that based on the Ultramarines Omnibus, there's the Grey Knights test for Taint, and that Captain Titus would pass. And I think based on, from the lore, that by 745, there was another, Captain Agaman of the Ultramarines that Titus would have had to predated 745 was the rationale thing. So, congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. And we have another contest. Did you want to...
Yeah, here's another... So, one thing you see in the lore is sometimes there's conflicting versions of what Chaos Space Marines are, in the sense that in some stories it seems that Chaos Space Marines have, after the Horus Heresy fight, fled to the Eye of Terror, exited the Eye of Terror 10,000 years later, and are basically running around with out-of-date armor, not being as tough, really in some respects, or maybe being equally as tough as a Loyalist Space Marine. In other versions of the lore, you find Chaos Space Marines that have been fighting for 10,000 years, and maybe they have out-of-date armor, but they've got chaos powers and 10,000 years of battle experience to draw on, in which case one Chaos Space Marine is the equivalent of many, many Loyalist Space Marines. So, for this contest, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What do you think is the most accurate version of what the Chaos Space Marines are? Or at least which version of the Chaos Space Marines resonates most with you? That they're sort of, for them, the Horus Heresy was just yesterday? Or for them, it's been 10,000 years of grueling battle perfection? So, again, as with any other questions, comments, or whatnot, email us at thebolterreport@gmail.com.
I forgot to repeatedly say that throughout the episode. And
you can put it on the bottom.
Yeah, I'm going to keep putting it there, just be on the thing. And I'll randomly put it throughout the rest of it, too, in places that I don't say it because I forgot. So, yay, technology.
And I did promise last episode to give some tips that I thought were not limited to Space Marine, but just overall for online gaming. Actually, I kind of give a couple tips. Well, the first one would be, if you're not doing it, you should hardwire. You should not go wireless with your PS3 or whatnot. You should plug in direct. Plug in your controllers. Plug in everything. Particularly in it might not make as big a difference if you're playing a single-player campaign, but when you're getting the hard, competitive gaming, when you're getting the online play, you're talking about frame rates, microseconds, milliseconds of difference, and that little bit of drag that you could have from having your controller unplugged, having your PS3 unplugged. If you can't hardwire it, raise it up off the ground. Try to get it as close as you can. You want your connection as good as you can. And I guess, and another tip then, your bandwidth. Your bandwidth will be important too, depending on how much bandwidth you have. But I mean, if you're trying to play online, while at the same time, your family's, your little brother is downloading a program, and someone else is streaming TV live over the bandwidth, and all kinds of things that are pulling on your bandwidth, and that is going to impact, or could impact, your play negatively. So, having a hardwired console, and having, I think certainly when there's tournament games going on the weekends, the chapter members are telling their families, "Okay, everyone get off the computers now. I need to play."
Yeah, he used to tell me to get off the computers when he was in a chapter battle, and before I was playing, before I understood, he was like, don't do that. And so,
yeah, don't download anything. So that's just not just for Space Marine, but for any online competitive play. If you're going to be delving into that world, then that will certainly give you a better play than if you were going wireless while your family is downloading. So, tactical readout then?
Yes. So moving on to our last segment, tactical readout. We're going to, after we share some tips here, we're going to have that awesome video from Godsmoker where he shares some great tips for Exterminatus. But before that, Godsmoker, what kind of do you have any tips for newer players? As far just
that isn't in your video.
Yeah, that is not in your video.
Well, there was a lot to cover, and I didn't get to cover everything I wanted to in the video, just for sake of time. But the biggest thing is, if you're starting out, you don't want to jump right online, get slaughtered like I did. You know, I started out, got killed by Raz every time, and I was like, that guy, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to make it my mission to kill him at least once during the battle, but it never really worked out. But, yeah, if you don't want to get slaughtered, go level up in Exterminatus. The best thing to do is if you're playing through, you die, just say no to continuing. Just say no. So you get all the experience, because if you say you want to continue, you don't get the experience. So if you're playing by yourself, just make sure that, you know, if you follow the tips in the video, just say no to when it's asked if you want to continue. Get the experience, go back in again, start over. So that's the biggest thing.
Very important, yes.
And you can get the customizer and then all the early weapons like the plasma gun and stalker, you know, pretty quickly that way, because if you make it far enough, you can probably gain a couple levels in Exterminatus. The next best thing to do would be, you know, just have a friend jump in to help you out.
I was going to say, once you get to level 4 and you get the customizer at level 4, then it's a lot more fun to play the game. You can look how you want and everything.
Yeah, you're not stuck being an Ultramarine like us fanboys that want to stay Ultramarine. So, you know. But, yeah, I mean, just try to level up as much as you can in Exterminatus. Just make sure you get the experience. And, you know, just the rest is in the video. So, you know, hopefully you guys learn, all the newer players anyway, get a lot from that. Or even the veteran guys, if they get something from it, cool. One thing that I did want to mention on the Hab Center is to just make sure you worry about capturing the point. Don't worry about killing everything, because if you start killing things, you know, the shooters are going to come out and they're going to put you in a world of hurt. So, you know, just make sure you focus on capturing that point first.
Yeah, you got an orc horde trying to surround you. Just don't let them surround you, right? Just kind of keep moving.
Yeah, duck and weave.
Duck and weave.
So, you know, the tips are in the video.
All right.
Good tips. Good tips. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
no problem.
We do want to get to the video good. I'd say one thing that's not really in the instruction manual is there are differences between the way the game, you know, some subtle, some not so subtle, between the single-player campaign, the Exterminatus, and the online competitive play. Those might throw you off a little bit at first, but I mean, for example, single player, the execute move to gain health, you should be using that a lot in a single player campaign, and that's great in the single player campaign. But if you try to do the execute move in the online, it doesn't work, right? So same thing, even like with the bolt pistol. The bolt pistol is a great weapon. You want to use the bolt pistol in single player and online play, everything, but the rate of fire, the ammo, you know, you don't have unlimited ammo like you do in the single player with the bolt pistol and say the competitive play. So there are some subtle differences like that, but I mean overall one does give you the feel for some of the others, right?
And I think that a tip that I would like to offer is learn your maps. Go into a private lobby and run around the map. Just explore it, become one with the map. Just know every little nook and cranny, because the other players know the maps. And you want to be worried about killing the other players and capturing points, that if you don't know where the points are, then it kind of makes it difficult to capture them. And that was something that helped me in the beginning. Chrome would insist rather vehemently that I go into a private lobby and go around it, learn it, and so that I'm not just wandering around like an idiot. And I remember one of my first games on Waste Management, I got a message from my battle sister Tara saying, "You can't go into their spawn." The opponent's spawn. I was just like wandering around so aimlessly that I ended up I wasn't even trying to spawn camp. I was just wandering around like an idiot. And I think that happens to a lot of newer players. So just take the time, go in a private lobby, wander around, and get acquainted with them so that you are prepared when you're out on the battlefield. And,
it's good stuff.
And evade. Roll,
evade.
duck, yeah. If you're an assault, if you're a devastator, if you're a tactical, roll, jump, move, don't stand still. If you stand still, you're asking for it, right? Right, Godsmoker?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, should we...
Oh, and again, just to reiterate from last episode, to level up, it's better to play Seize Ground than Annihilation, but be sure to capture your points.
Yeah. If you play Annihilation, then you only get experience points pretty much from killing something. So if you're not so good at killing, then you're kind of out of luck. If you die, you actually kind of hurt your team. You're giving the other team points by dying, and Seize Ground, so you get experience from capturing points. Even if you're just running around, kind of getting killed a bunch of times in Seize Ground, you're doing something for your team. You're accomplishing something. If you run to point B and you get killed on point B, you've at least taken some energy from the other side. You at least help somewhat. And I know sometimes it's competitive. The online, it can seem, particularly more so at first, like it's just sort of crazy. There's no set pattern to it. Everything's going nuts. In time, you get a feeling for the flow of competitive play, but I think Seize Ground has more sense to it, more flow. There's 3 points or 4 points, and people are trying to capture those points. So compared to Annihilation, where you might pop in and there's no one around, and you just, you're walking along, you all of a sudden get killed, and you're like, oh, I had no idea what just happened there. I think Seize Ground overall much better place for you if you start off leveling up in Exterminatus, and then after you've done that and got a little comfort, you want to go and dip your toe into the competitive play. Play Seize Ground and Seize Ground. Go capture that first capture point. Get those 200 points. For sure.
All right. Do you have any closing remarks, Godsmoker?
The only thing I want to add to that is if you're playing Seize Ground and the other team's home capture is not flashing, go for it. Because it's going to take some pressure off the other points.
Absolutely.
But that's all I've got.
All right. Well, now we're going to watch your video, and there's a lot of great information there, and particularly with the Exterminatus component of the Black Crusade coming up, everyone's going to want to hear some of that information.
I should say, Godsmoker and the Ultramarines, they really are the kings of Exterminatus. There have been several, multiple Exterminatus competitions in the PS3 community, and the Ultramarines have won. The vast majority of them have been won by Godsmoker and the Ultramarines, and so
I got to give thanks to Corporal Hard Dog because him and I have played that extensively. We practice on a lot. I, and Battleshay are constantly, trying to find ways to better ourselves in that. So, you got to be good at something, I guess. So we just we practice a lot. So we got a few tips that we won't divulge, but maybe later.
We don't hold that against you. Can't give away everything, right?
Well, especially we don't want to kind of give ourselves the shaft in the next crusade. So
Understandable. Well, thank you for everything. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you very much. May the lag be with you.
Yes. May the lag be in your favor. And please send any questions or comments to thebolterreport@gmail.com.
All right, without further ado, here's Godsmoker's video.
Thank you.
Take care.
Godsmoker the Ultramarines here. Just looking to go over some basics on Exterminatus. As you can see, I've got the customizer up and I'm displaying the tactical loadout currently with the default teleport homer. Also have the heavy bolter with feel no pain, frag grenades, nothing else. Also have the assault with the chainsword, bolt pistol, frag grenades, and furious charge. All of these are the default loadouts that are available for the first few levels. Obviously I was in the customizer, that's available at level 4. Here's just a quick view of the settings. You could change whatever scenario you want in Exterminatus, and you can see that you can start from whatever arena you'd like, although I'd recommend starting from Arena 1 if you're just starting out. It's the best way to get experience for lower level players. All of the other settings probably won't help you, so it's not really necessary to change those. Here it's displaying as the Tactical Marine. As you can see, I switched to the bolt pistol. You want to try to conserve ammo as much as possible. It's pretty scarce, or it can be anyway, and you're out by yourself against hordes of orcs. And as you can see here, I'm kind of dodging, kiting out of the way, using the tactical roll to the fullest advantage. Also, you want to use your combat as much as possible, close combat I should say. Just make sure you save ammo as any way you can, because ammo becomes precious later when you deal with bigger targets. The Stomp, which is the triangle stun move, is the best for taking out like Gretchen and also regular orcs. You get mega kills, multi-kills that way. It gives you a bigger bonus stack. And as you can see here, it's more of the same. Picking up a couple grenades. The grenades are definitely useful here. You notice here that another one just popped up, so what I'll do is I'll just roll out of the way, kind of group them all together, and then toss one down, let it explode, get the mega kill bonus, or variety kill, multi-kill, whatever it is, and then you just go back and pick up the grenades. So don't be shy about using your grenades if you see one lying around. Ammo, you don't have to pick up ammo, but it's nice to have. Here's the second wave. The orcs will come out from this pipe here. There's a challenge that pops up right as the wave starts pretty much. So you want to make sure that you kill them as they come out. It's the best way to get the challenge, because you definitely want to win these challenges, because they give you an extra 2,500 points, which goes towards your experience total at the end. So as you can see here, kind of close combating, but you kind of want to take out these shooters. The shooter boys are definitely a pain in the ass, so you want to take them out as quickly as possible. Priority number 1. As you can see here, there's a capture point that comes up. This is on the third wave. The best thing that I can advise to do is to just wait for everything to kind of come out at you. Don't kill anything. Make your priority capturing the point. So you want to just dodge, combat, roll out of the way. You know, as you can see that they're not really hitting you. Just take advantage of the programming that works stupidity. So once you capture the point there, you know, you can just kill the orcs, and easy peasy. This is the Devastator, pretty much of the same. Use the bolt pistol, save the heavy bolter for the bigger enemies. You can just use the little dodge to hop out of the way. Most of the orcs will usually miss you if you step to the side, because you know they usually take a minute to rear back and swing. So try to stomp and get as many kills as possible in one shot, especially Gretchen. You want to group them up, so try to kite them around. Here you can see there's a different stomp technique. You're stomping and then just dodging back so that you kind of dodge the axe swings of the boys. Really effective with the Devastator. Here is the beginning of the, well, the end of the first wave, I should say. Going to be the beginning of the second wave. You kind of want to get yourself in position. Once you see the little kill markers above the heads, you'll know that the wave's almost over. So take advantage of that. Get up on top of this rock here. And you can see it's pointing towards the pipe where the orcs come out. So just pull out the heavy bolter, brace, and get ready to fire. They'll come out, and it's pretty much like shooting fish in a barrel. As you can see here, you're killing them steadily, and then the challenge pops up. Kills are kind of going down quickly. Just be careful with the heavy bolter, since it'll overheat. You don't want to get stuck like I did here and get shot at, but you know, it cools down fairly quickly. Just make sure that you, when you brace, you kind of mean to do it. It's easy to brace when you think you're reloading, when you're used to playing like a tactical or assault marine. So here, much of the same with the capturing the point. Same technique. Don't kill anything. Just dodge out of the way. Make your priority capturing the point. Once the point's captured, then start killing. As you can see here, still dodging. You might take a few hits here and there, but don't worry about it. Your armor will regenerate, and your health will too. As long as you keep dodging, don't get hit. This is the Assault Marine. Assault Marine is very mobile. You want to definitely use this attack here. It's a combo of attack, stun. So 3 squares and a triangle if you're using the default button allocations. Also, you can see here, if you jump up, you can get a good handle as to what's going on below you. And you can see with the stun, you stun everything around you. That only works if you're the host. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you're the only one playing, you're always going to be host. So just make sure you use that a lot, especially when you have a lot of crowds around you. And here I'm doing a backwards jump and then a dash forward, really effective. Here you have you know, maneuver where you kind of kite enemies a little bit differently as an assault. Just do a short little bunny hop. Don't fully press the jump button, just kind of tap it and move to the side, and then move in, do the combo. Here, kind of get stuck in a bunch of shooters. A good tactic is to jump away grenade and then jump back in and re-engage. It'll definitely save you a lot of headache, and you won't get shot up as much because when you're assault, you're pretty squishy. You definitely don't want to be in the middle of too many shooters, especially like this here. You'll notice that I'm in the open, and I'm attacking things, kind of stunning things, but you know the shooters are still around. You want to take those guys out, but you know they tend to shoot quickly. So if you notice your armor and health getting down, just jump out of the way, behind some cover, regroup a little bit. Don't go up on the area where you can be seen and shot like I just did there to illustrate that point. Here you have the enemies, they'll follow you, so don't get too comfortable in a position where you think you're safe, because they'll follow you and shoot you. So you just want to kind of get out of the way, use your area as much as possible, as much of the map. You know, you have little spots where you can hide and take cover and kind of regroup. Here's a capture point as the assault. Pretty much same principle, except for the assault you can't really combat roll or dodge, so you just have to kind of use the bunny hop, the kite, if you will. Just be careful, because you know assaults have less armor than tacs or devs, so you just have to kind of make straight line jumps. And you know you might come off the point a little bit, but you know if you stay on it or close to it, you'll eventually capture the point. So just be careful, and if you need to jump away, and then use your grenade.